Any player will tell you. He'll tell you. I can remember when I first went to the Colts, they brought in this thing called a sauna, and all the players are thinking, what's this, a restaurant or something? And even then, you play on a Sunday, you're not really ready, your body, to play till Thursday or Friday at the most. Now they're running them out there for the sake of more money on a Thursday. And there are too many games, there are too many bad teams, and there's sure as hell a lot of bad players. I think that's a bigger danger than even the injuries. You can't keep giving them the same thing, and now you have the red zone, and you look at it, and you know, all of you here know what is a bad book, what is a bad meal, and I look at it and I call Ron and I say, this is bad. This is not good football.
Well, you know, we talk about it in the book. Upton's dad, Bert, who really started the NFL down the road of national televised games and shared income and all that, also always warned the owners that, you know, that as important as it was for football to blend with television, because it really in many ways was a perfect TV game, you must beware of television, because television will eat you up. It's like
and get rid of you.
And then it will get rid of you, and it'll move on to the next thing. And so don't put yourself out there too much. And I think Upton's right. You know, you see, when I was a kid, you know, there was, of course, even before the Patriots, you know, you saw the Giants, and that was it. And you saw one college game. So all week, if you were a kid like I was, who lived and died playing football, you were fixated. Now there's 165 college games on every. I can't tell you who's playing in any week, because everybody's, you know, on television, and pro football the same way. I mean, I have friends. I don't know how they do this, but you know, they'll start watching 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock on a Sunday morning, these pregame shows, then one football game, then another football game, then they'll go to ESPN or the Red Zone, and then they'll watch the nighttime game. And I don't know, you know, why their wives don't throw them off the roof. It's too much.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is, maybe not for your age group, but maybe your kids, is that, and Ron and I discussed this. I said, listen, and I talked to my girlfriend Joanne's kids. They don't sit there like we would for 2 or 3 hours, and now all the commercials and the instant replays and all this other crap that's just gotten way out of hand down there. The official looking at somebody telling him from New York some idiotic thing, and you take the power out of the official's hands. But the other thing, this generation, next generation, they get it on their phone. They play fantasy football. Half of them have no idea what the game's about. They're just doing it's a form of gambling. I have no problem with that. But basically, the future of pro football, they better understand that this next generation, they don't sit there for 2 or 3 hours. If they can't get it instantly, if they can't get it quickly, they can't read it on the red zone, if it's not on their phone, they're not going to do it. So I think there's a whole future of people that will not be what we're used to watching. They don't care. They just want the results and the highlights. And the league, stupidly, gives you all the highlights. You don't have to watch the game. If you're looking, I'll put it this way, and Karen, I'll direct this to you, is if you weren't covering and had an interest in the Patriots, and you were tuning in nationally and watched that game, I would have turned it off in the first quarter, because it wasn't interesting. Brady makes it interesting. If Brady isn't here in this latest stiff that they brought in, are you going to watch it?
Speaking like an old scout.
Yeah. You going to watch Jed Hoyer? Really? You know, so that's what it is. Anyway, yes, sir.
Yeah, a quick question. This is just a personal comment. It just seems like I watched the game in '58 as a 9 or 10-year-old, and then Pete Rozelle shows up. He seemed to be okay. You know, the late Burt Bell was okay. And then my question is, I just feel that the current commissioners, post Rozelle, I can't even remember. They're not football.
Paul
Tagliabue.
They just didn't seem like they were football guys.
Right. Well, you're exactly right. That's
so I'm trying to think, you know, from a management perspective, they're horrible managers. So
but they're not. And Ron and I discussed this. I think where the NFL really went the other way. They had Burt Bell and Pete Rozelle, probably the two best back-to-back commissioners in sports history. And another thing, I don't think we got in the book, at one time, my father was so successful that baseball came to him during the Ford Frick era and said, would you be willing to run both leagues? And because he was really an innovator, he really understood way beyond his time. And he said, I don't really think it would be right for me to do that at the time. And that's when they were having trouble, with crossing the not the picket line, but the whole idea of baseball, bringing African American players into it. But back to the key moment that he and I have discussed. They had decided, the power group, the Maras, the Lombardis, the people like that, that Jim Finks, who we all knew really well. I knew Jim when he was a quarterback at Pittsburgh, then a great general manager, really understood the executive part, but also the game. And they had essentially said he's going to be the commissioner. But a group of owners stepped in and said, we don't want this, enough of football guys, let's get Paul Tagliabue, this lawyer who had worked on different things for the league, and they brought him in, and I said, that's the end of football. In fact, a person that he covered for many years, Al Davis, whether people liked him or not, I remember my first league meeting in '71 as the Patriots general manager, and these lawyers, you got to understand, the league meetings are run by lawyers. Lawyers and multimillionaires now, billionaires, that are more interested in building pyramids and hotels and crap like that, and the football team is secondary. And Al Davis got up and said, we got to throw these goddamn lawyers out. But let's get back to football. I'm looking like, oh my God, here we go. It's going to be a fist fight in here. And it was just really amazing. Davis understood, as Jim Finks understood, that this was a changing. And look at the game now. It's really, what do you hear the commissioner say? I want to build it up to $25 billion. He never says, I want to build the game. And that's what it's come to. And I think that's the real danger of it. Would you agree, Ron?
Well, yeah, I mean, your point's really well taken, because if you look at Upton's dad was a former football player, football coach, that ultimately became an owner. He was a football guy, what I would call a football guy, becomes the commissioner. He's followed by Pete Rozelle, who was a PR guy, which begins to sort of, off the trap. But he also had been general manager of the Rams. He was a football guy. And
he understood TV.
And he understood television as well. Now, he's followed by a Washington lawyer, who's followed by Roger Goodell, who's a marketing guy. If he wasn't selling football, he'd be selling sprockets or whatever it is he gets hired to market. So now you've got two consecutive lengthy periods of time where the people running the game know nothing about the football side of the game. And you go to the owners' meetings now. I used to love to go and still enjoy it, because they're never in Buffalo. They're always in really nice places. It's warm in the winter. That's right. But we used to talk all night about football. Coaches, GMs, those guys. Now all they're talking about is T-shirts and, oh, how are we going to open up the China market? And it's like, well, I don't know. How about you learn how to play defense and tackle somebody? But it never comes up, because it's, and I think that is a danger. Going forward.
It's a big danger, and we've talked about playing in London. Please, I mean, and China.
About Mexico. Karen and I have to go to Mexico in a couple of weeks. We have armed guards down there.
They're building a wall down there to keep the football players out.
No, you're right. It's almost like they've lost. I've always thought in any business, no matter what you do, Sean, you cover baseball, you've seen the change there. And I think in many ways, just like what happened in the World Series, should that person that yelled the racial slur, which everybody heard on television, to me his ass should have been thrown out. Right? In the olden days, like it or not, he'd have been gone. And I think what's happened to all of our games is, I remember Bob Smertz, who was the owner of the Celtics, having a conversation with me, and they were talking about electing the new commissioner, who happened in the end to be David Stern. And I was having this conversation with him.